Alright guys, so we're going to talk about fractions, decimals, and percents in this section. And this is chapters 6.4, the fourth section of chapter 6. What's going on here? Alright, so I would like you to copy down this slide. Go ahead and pause me for a second, copy this down, and then replay me when you're finished. Okay, so the first word is called percent, and this is a ratio that compares a number to 100. And we talked about a ratio being two numbers that are compared to one another. And we're going to compare that to 100. And I have a little hint up here. Percent means per 100. Okay, cent means 100. Per means per. And you can remember cent as being 100 because they're a cent as in a penny. There are 100 pennies, 100 cents, and a dollar. Century, there's 100 years in a century. Centimeters, there's 100 centimeters in a meter, and so on. So you can remember cent meaning 100. We're comparing that to 100. Now these four key concepts here, we've got to write a percent as a decimal. We're going to divide by 100 and remove the percent symbol. To write a decimal as a percent, we're going to multiply it by 100 and add the percent symbol. And to write a fraction as a percent, write an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100. Also, to write a fraction as a percent, we could also first write it as a fraction, write the fraction as a decimal, and then express the decimal as a percent. Okay, now I'd like you to copy these examples down, and these are not negative signs, they are just how my computer does bullets. So those are not negatives, they're just bullets. Okay, so first of all, we've got the example 45%. So we're looking at 45%, and it asked me to write the percent as a fraction in simplest form. Well, here it says to write a fraction as a percent, we're going to write an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100. Okay, so my denominator is obviously going to be 100 because that's what it just said. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to write exactly what's given to me, 45. What's given to me is 45%, and I'm going to write that over 100. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write 45 over 100, but it also asked me to write it in simplest form, so I need to simplify. And I can divide the top by 5 and the bottom by 5, and I get 9 over 20. So 45% is 9 over 20. All right, and the same thing for 120%. You're going to write it over 100, and you're going to write on the numerator exactly what's given to you. So the full thing is 120. Okay, and then I'm going to simplify this a little bit more. Well, if I have a 0 and a 0 here, I can just cross those out. So now I have 12 over 10, and I can simplify that as being 6 over 5, which equals 1 and 1/5. Okay, and if you notice, look at this percent. This is over 100%, right? So my fraction is going to be over 1. This one is less than 100%. And my fraction is less than 1. All right, so let's look at 0.5%. Remember, we're going to write it over 100. Okay, and then we're going to have 0.5% over 100. So all I'm going to do is just write what's given to me, 0.5 over 100. Okay, so in order to do this, I can multiply by 10 to eliminate this decimal, or what I can do is I can just type it in my calculator, 0.5 divided by 100, and I get 0.005. Now that I want it in a fraction, so it's actually going to be 1 over 200. Okay, also what I was saying before, when you multiply it by 10 over 10, that would just do, let me just get rid of this, multiply it by 10 over 10, that would just eliminate this decimal right here. So that would now be 5 over 1,000, which then reduces to 1 over 200. Either way you want to do it, that's fine. All right, and then we have 83 and a third percent, so we're just going to do the same process as over 100. You write what you're given as 83 and 1/3 over 100. Now this is 83 and a third divided by 100, so it's really 83 and 1/3 divided by 100. Well, when I divide, I need to change that to a mixed number. So 83 times 3 is 249, plus 1 is 250, over 3 divided by 100. Really, 100's over 1. So when I have something like this and I have a division, what do I need to do? Well, I need to flip and multiply. So this now becomes 1 over 100. And I can cross simplify here and here. And I can simplify that to being, divide both of those by 50. So I have 2 and I have 5, which gives me back 5 halves. Oh goodness, not 5 halves. Sorry. There's a 3 there. So I'm going to do 3 times 2, which is 6. 5, 6. Okay, now these two examples are writing fractions as percents. So what I need to do when I write a fraction as percent is I need to write it as over 100. Remember, percent as being per 100. So I'm going to write an equivalent fraction over 100. Okay, well then I ask myself, what do I need to multiply to 5 to get me to 100? Well, I can multiply by 20 to get me to 100. Well, if I multiply the bottom by 20, I've got to multiply the top by 20, and I get 80 over 100. And so then from here, we are going to just say this equals 80%. Because remember, before, we just wrote it over 100, like 45 over 100 was 45%. Here, we're writing 80 over 100, which is 80%. All right, then we have 9/4. Okay, so we're going to write an equivalent fraction compared to 100. And what am I going to multiply by 4 to get me to 100? Well, we're going to multiply by 25. And if you multiply the bottom by 25, you have to multiply the top by 25. And 9 times 25 is 225. So 9/4 is going to be 225%. Okay, and then these two examples are writing percents as decimals. Now these are pretty simple. I like doing these because, well, I'll show you a little shortcut. But first of all, go back here. To write a percent as a decimal, we're going to divide by 100 and remove the percent symbol. Okay, so let's go here. And we have 28%. We want to divide by 100. Okay, so in your calculator real quick, go ahead and do 28 divided by 100. And you get 0.28. And then it told you to remove the decimal. Remove the percent symbol. And so it just now becomes 0.28%. Well, look at this. If you move your decimal that starts here at the very end, if you move your decimal 2 places to the left, what is that? 0.28. Well, that's how you can do it, a little bit of shortcut. Same thing with here. Okay, so we're going to do 375 divided by 100. In your calculator, you'll see that 375 divided by 100 is 3.75. Now watch my little shortcut here. My decimal's right here. I'm going to move it 2 places to the left, and look at that. It's 3.75. Okay, now we've got expressing each decimal as a percent. So we're going to make these two examples as percents. So we're going to go back to our first slide. And to write a decimal as a percent, we're going to multiply by 100 and add the percent symbol. All right, so let's take it back. All right, so I've got 0.35. So we got to multiply that by 100. So in your calculator, 0.35 times 100, and you get 35. And it told you to add the percent sign, so we add the percent sign. Well, check out this cool shortcut. So the decimal is now here, and I want to make it a percent, so I move the decimal 2 places to the right, and there you go. That's 35%. Both ways work. Both ways are good. All right, so then here I've got 0.007. You can multiply by either 100% or 100. So we're going to multiply by 100, and we are going to add the percent. And when you do that in your calculator, do 0.007 times 100, and we get 0.7. And we add our percent sign, which is 7.7%. Or we can move our decimal 2 places, and we get 0.7%. Okay, and then this next example is asking us to express each fraction as a percent, round to the nearest 10th percent if necessary. Okay, so first of all, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to write this fraction, 7/8, as a decimal. So in your calculator, you don't have to do it by hand, you can do the calculator. I would like you to divide 7 by 8, and you should get 0.875. Now, when you do this, you write your decimal first, then we're going to write it as a percent, just like we did here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the decimal 2 places, and this is going to be 87.5%. Also, you could multiply this by 100 and add the percent sign. All right, I want you to try this one. All right, so when you do it in your calculator, you should get 0.006 as your decimal. You move your decimal 2 places, and that becomes 0.6%. Okay, and then we got 2/3 over here. 2 divided by 3 is 0.666, blah, 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 all the way to 7. Okay, so it did ask you to say round to the nearest 10th percent. Okay, so I need enough 6's to write it as the nearest 10th percent. Okay, not nearest decimal percent or decimal 10th, but to the 10th percent. So here I'm going to move my decimal 2 places. This is going to be 66 point, and then I'm going to round to the nearest 10th, so I have to look at my next one, and that's going to round up to 66.7%. All right, and then we've got 15 over 7, and if you divide 15 over 7 in your calculator, you get 2.14285. 14285. Yeah, that's right. So when you write it as your percent, you're going to move your decimal 1, 2, and you're going to round to the nearest 10th. So I have to look at that one to see if I'm going to round up or round down. And that's 214.3%. Okay, and now here are some examples, and I've split it down the screen. So this is really example 1, 2, 3, 4, and these are using these instructions. And then this is 5, 6, 7, 8 over there. And these are going to be using these instructions. Okay, so 8 practice problems. I will check these tomorrow, and good luck.